Ladies and gentlemen, let us now launch the first of our technical sessions, encouraging Atmanirbharta or self-reliance through enhancing exports. This session would give an exposure to our foreign defense attaches regarding not just subsystems or systems, but entire platforms that India produces today and are available for export to other countries. May I please invite Nitin Gokhale on stage. Nitin will be moderating the session.
Thank you, Nilanjana. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, my co-panelists here. We have deliberately kept the sessions in a question-answer format, a discussion format, because that brings out a lot of new thoughts and also gives an opportunity for each other to sort of raise some questions and queries. So let me start, since this is about exports and this is about what India can do to increase its exports. Since Mr. Jaju is the man who has been driving this initiative of the Government of India, Department of Defense Production and the Ministry of Defense on how to enhance India's exports to friendly countries and how the target of $5 billion of defense exports by 2025 needs to be achieved. So let's first hear from you, Mr. Jaju. What are the plans that the government has, and what are the steps that you have taken in this respect?
Thank you, Mr. Gokhale. Very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the first question that would possibly need to be answered is, why are we focusing on defense exports? It's primarily for two reasons. Although defense is a strategic imperative, I mean, you require a defense manufacturing ecosystem for building a self-sufficient country in terms of its strategic requirements, but it's also an economic imperative. And that's why we don't look at defense manufacturing ecosystem as something which is secluded from the overall economic environment. So we look at it as an economic imperative. So when we say defense exports, we are talking in terms of making our industry, making our manufacturing ecosystem become competitive, produce best-in-class products, become part of the overall global supply chains. Because you can't build any economic sector in an isolation or in an isolationist environment. It has to be built as part of the global, well-connected global economic sphere that we talk of. So when we say defense exports, we are going to push it from a number A to a number B. And when we set ourselves that target, or when we say that, in 2018, we wanted to come up with a defense production policy, but now we are not coming up with a defense production policy alone. We are saying it is defense production and export promotion policy. And the idea behind that emphasis is that now we know it is time for our industry to stand on its feet, compete with the best in the world on quality, on price, and thereby become, an economic driver in itself. So I just wanted to give you the context as to why we are talking about defense exports. And it's very important to emphasize on that point, because we have close to 60 countries represented today in this conclave. And the very fact that, we want to talk to you and we want to impress upon you is not exactly from those numbers, because these numbers are still not going to be big enough. It's also from the perspective that we know there are countries of different hues, there are countries of different sizes, there are countries with different economic and strategic questions, vulnerabilities or strengths. And it is not possible for all countries to create a scale and the size that is required for a manufacturing ecosystem. So when we say we want to create a manufacturing ecosystem, produce for the country, produce for India, and produce for you, we are not saying that we will displace your industry and, which many other countries actually do, displace your industry and start dumping our products into your country? No, that's not the answer. We would appreciate the fact that there will be few things that your country will be able to do in a better manner, in a more competitive manner. Those things will be done in those countries only. There are certain things which India, with its size, scale, and the shape that the industry has taken over the last 20 years, especially in the private sector, could then contribute, join hands with you, and produce things which may be relevant for your country or relevant for our country. And that is where, when we say this, we are also mindful of the fact that there are global players. Lockheed Martin, world's biggest arms exporter, or world's biggest defense company. I think that's a better word to use. I don't like this word arms exporter. I think world's biggest defense company, if that is the way it has to be. So when we talk to them, we are also aware of the fact that when we create this global manufacturing ecosystem or an export hub, we are not saying Lockheed Martins of the world are not welcome. In fact, they are more welcome now. In fact, that is why when we talk of export promotion, we are also talking about FDI by 74% automatic route. When we are talking of defense production, we are also talking about defense procurement. That is why we have brought a category called Buy Global but Manufacture in India. Again, the whole idea is we are not even imposing on them a condition that you can not manufacture in India, or we will not buy from you if you don't pass over your technology to us. Technology remains in your domain, please keep it. But start doing some value for money production here, because we know that we can offer you that 24%. An equity partner can come in, we can even give you 100% FDI also. But we also know that when you manufacture in India, you will also use certain arbitrages that are available. The population, the size, the market, the skill set, there are so many favorable conditions which are there, which possibly will help the Lockheeds of the world to come and manufacture in India and for the rest of the world. So I just wanted to give you the context of these defense exports. So what is it that we are doing? Of course, I think I would say this event in itself is also part of an exercise to do export promotion, to sensitize all the foreign countries, all our friendly foreign countries, that look, we are at your beck and call. We will not impose conditions which other countries do. We are not trying to displace your industry. We will only want to integrate our economy, our production ecosystem with your ecosystem and push for you and push for your country. We have set a lot of targets. We are setting ourselves a target of $5 billion of defense exports by 2024-25. I know this has been one of those very, very bad years. So the numbers hold no meaning now. This year is going to be bad for everybody. But we hope that things will turn around, and possibly by 2024-25, we'll have a $5 billion of an export economy, which will become part of the overall $25 billion of our defense economy. That is 20% of our defense economy should be propelled by defense exports. Good news is we have made a very good progress. I would say it's almost like an exponential progress from what we were 3 years back to what we are today. Our private sector is now, in fact, there are many companies now which are exporting more. They are actually selling in the local market, if for defense.
Yeah.
So that itself is a sign that some of our companies have understood the value of becoming part of these global supply chains. They are becoming competitive. We have also improved upon all our procedures which were laid out, because that is what was actually impeding the work that our private sector was doing. So now we are supportive of them. Just like you, we have also told all our defense attaches all over the world, wherever they are, to support all our companies, both public sector as well as private sector, and try and understand the requirement of that country and give our offer in the manner which the host country would be more than happy to receive or take. As our secretary pointed out, we have opened also lines of credit, and these lines of credit are again fairly well subsidized by the government. We have also provided opportunities to all of you to see how our manufacturing ecosystem is shaping up. Last 3 years, the defense expos and the Aero India shows that we have done, unlike earlier avatars of these shows, where it used to be a place where the foreign companies could come and dump their products and market their product. Again, they were also more than welcome to do, but then the local ecosystem was not getting any opportunity to produce or to showcase what they are in a position to do. But now we have positioned these events to become part of a bilateral fora where foreign companies can come and show their products, where Indian companies also can try and integrate with the global masters and the global OEMs and become part of the global supply chains. So some of these opportunities are being used. All our embassies have been mandated to do this kind of work. We have also now allocated defense public sector companies, certain countries have been allocated so that whatever effort is required, they could also push their resources and channelize our efforts and create market for themselves. But at the end of the day, whatever we may do, unless and until our manufacturing ecosystem, our private sector companies or public sector companies become globally competitive and they produce what actually the world would like to have, products which are possibly not available anywhere else, technologically superior, efficient, economic, in many cases even green these days, and value for money, the exports won't happen. And I'm sure our industry is, looking at the participation of so many players here, I think our industry is now more than willing to push forward and take this agenda beyond us. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, I think the great points here, Mr. Jaju, 2 or 3 points that I can take away. And I must inform all of you here that through the online medium, and because like Mr. Kalyani was saying that we have the technology available now where people can join in such conferences from anywhere in the world, most of our DAs posted abroad are actually watching this program. We've given them the link and they're also watching. So let me come to Mr. Bhatia about this aspect of defense sector in India. Mr. Jaju just mentioned about the enabling environment and also how the ecosystem has been created or is being created. What in your experience has changed and what are you looking forward to in the coming few years?
Thank you, Mr. Jaju. Actually, he's been a great supporter of Indian industry, and ever since he's been into this chair, he has been not only making it possible, but really going out of the way to facilitate whatever we could do. He is also the architect of the so-called the negative list which came out, and the defense production policy and the export policy which are now co-linked, which have come out. He did give out a very, I would say, clear reason as to why we are looking at exports. But if, as industry, I was to say, what are the essentials for export, there would be certain parameters. The first would be the need. After all, nobody is going to buy unless he needs that particular equipment. Conflict, fortunately, is second nature to humankind. But to avoid conflict is when you really need to strengthen your armed forces. So need for these weapon systems, platforms would always remain. The second essential part would be how well is the Indian industry prepared to meet that need. Over the period of last 5 to 7 years, tremendous progress has been shown in this domain. In fact, if you take a look at the Indian industry, Indian defense industry was not aligned to the Indian industrial capabilities in the country. We were lagging behind. You saw in automotive, we were on the top of the world. In many sectors, we were on top of the world. It's in the last 5 or 6 years when the real focus and impetus has been given that today we are starting to shine as an Indian industry. What has changed is exactly what we are saying is the enabling environment which has come about. It has become a focus. We are talking about Make in India, we are talking about self-reliance, but self-reliance does not mean getting into closed boundaries as it was really clearly mentioned. So the second essential would be the capability and capacity of the industry, and I think we have come a long way into this particular segment to be able to do it. So what is extra as the Indian industry we can bring to the table? Now that is where I would say what we can bring. There are two important factors in the Indian industry. First is our capacity to do frugal engineering. Cost of high-end engineering and I would say, innovation in this country is exactly 1/8 to 1/10 of the Western world. And hence, we are in a position to do that. And every nation where you want to export, like Chief of Naval Staff mentioned in the morning, is not looking for solution what was good for your country. He is looking for a bespoke solution, a solution which is fit for him. Which means a platform needs to be adopted, it needs to be innovated upon, it needs to be worked upon. As Indian industry, we can bring frugal engineering, we can bring rapid innovation. You'll be surprised to know that 215 or little more multinational corporations have their research and development center in India. And 400,000 engineers are working for this kind of work out of India. So we can provide that. And the third part is the manufacturing competence. We have repeatedly demonstrated that our industry is capable of producing world-class equipment, and hence we can provide that. With the bouquet of these three services put together, what can we offer? We can offer systems which are exactly your need for your country, bespoke, tailor-made. Secondly, we are also very sure that we can offer these systems which will be cost competitive and world-class in technology. With these two parameters, I think the doors can open. The third part, and which is the most important part, and Mr. Jaju did mention a bit about it, is that we as Indian industry and exporters for systems are prepared to give joint development, joint manufacture, collaborative effort, and full transfer of technology wherever it be needed. So we can actually encourage the industry in the target nation to come of age. And if it is already there, to help in a collaborative effort. So this is what can be brought. And the Secretary of Defense Production in his address clearly mentioned out. He was no longer talking about a subsystem. He was talking about platform level exports which could be taken up. Both in land systems, in air, in marine. So while we may not be there in that league of the mega majors like Lockheed Martin, but we are making a start. The start is positive and intentions are good, and we are sure we are going to reach there. Thank you.
That's a very good overview of what has changed. Let me come to Mr. Gupta before I come to Mohan Nair, my old friend. Please, you can take that. Mr. Gupta, yours is a company which manufactures personal as well as ballistic protection equipment, and also you've done some exports of late, and is one of the younger companies, if I can say, compared to, say, L&T or Bharat Forge. What has been your experience in the last 4 or 5 years that you've been dealing with defense?
So first of all, the biggest change that we have seen is that our MOD has been actively promoting exports, which is a sea change. MKU has been into exports since 2003. And there were times when we used to struggle to get approvals for maybe 6 months, 8 months, but today is a time we can get export approvals in 3 days' time. Thank you, sir, for that. And this is a big, big change, and I would say this gives a very positive impact when we talk to our customers and they say, okay, we want quick deliveries in 1 or 2 months' time. And then we can confidently say, yes, we can do that, which is not possible with many other countries. So thanks to the online system that has been created and the transparency that has come into.
I think this deserves a round of applause from everyone here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the second sea change that we have seen in last 4 or 5 years is that our DAs abroad are actively promoting Indian industry. They are trying to gather information from the user country. They are able to translate or forward that back to our embassies and MODs or SIDMs, FICCIs, associations. So that is becoming they are becoming a good brand ambassadors for us. So that is again a change that we are seeing. Then I would say the amount of G2G agreement that India is signing. Before, a lot of time this used to become a bottleneck in signing a deal with a particular country. So this is bringing a big change. as far as exports are concerned. And I would say, yes, line of credit that needs to be further improved, or maybe the number of countries has to be enhanced. But this is also helping us, Indian industry, to grow exports, sir.
Right.
Plus, I would add, overall, all this combined together, the brand India, from importer to exporter, that is also bringing a big change. So that is one of the biggest things that I feel is a positive step.
It's good to know that, in a company like yours, which started exports in 2003, you were saying, but the acceleration in the procedures and clearances have happened in the last 4 or 5 years, which is, I think, very encouraging. Mohan, I'll give you this. Actually, you have the mic. I want to check with you, and L&T is one of the larger defense companies in India, very old. I don't want you to compare what has changed, because everybody has spoken about it. But what is it that you will look for collaborative efforts with foreign OEMs as well as exports by L&T? What has been your experience? What are the demands in the neighborhood or in the extended neighborhood?
Thank you. But I must say the government has really come out from the years that we started off with defense exports. And today what we are, certainly all credit goes to the government also for pushing us and, walking side by side with us in all the requirements. And today, when we walk out to the world, as Nitin said, we have already established ourselves in more than 20 countries we are exporting. And defense exports, 10 years back in my company was almost a zero. Then the offsets came, then it started trickling a little bit. Today we are doing almost 20% of our defense business, and Larsen & Toubro does quite a lot of defense business, okay, in exports. So I just want to give you that number. Now how does that come? That comes because we have done collaborative work. Nothing comes, everything is not grown homegrown, okay? We have gone across nations, across countries. We have worked very closely with a lot of foreign OEMs. We have worked with DPSUs out here. We are working with private companies in India. We are doing collaborative work. Everything is not there in our plate, but we work on that. But yes, sir, rightly pointed out, what are we good at, Indians good at? Indians are good at, we all know that we are now number one in the world as far as IT industry is concerned. Somebody else mentioned we are also very good in telecom industries. We have grown so well in the automobile industry. This was the question what we had started posing to our own government of India. Why can't we do this in the defense industry? Isn't the industry capable? And that's where the things started moving and moving and moving. And today we are here. I can tell you, the world, we are going to be there in the defense segment also. Because we have already launched and we will move and surge forward. I have that confidence because we've been working with, and we don't believe that we can do all of this alone. Today is a world of collaborations. We will work collaboratively and we will work with all our partners. We have partners across the globe and we have them coming to India. Why do they want to come to India? Because we can do, we are the largest mass of technical trained people in the world. We have, I don't know, thousands of engineering colleges which churns out engineers for us. Young crowd, young minds, as Rajendra said, we had so many business and R&D innovation centers being set up in the country. So much of investment is being done about R&D and defense in the country. And we are ready to invest. There are deep pockets in India also. India is not a very poor country. India is sizably rich, I would say, where it is required. And we do have the power, the muscle, and the will to get into this, and we will be there. I'm very confident, Nitin, that going ahead in the future, I would like to share a secret as, out here. My aim is to reach out to the audiences of the 60 countries, DAs, which are present here. Okay, many of you all are interacting with us. We are going to be there into big systems, platforms. As the CD has also mentioned in this morning address, we are not going to be thinking of telling you the small things that we are interested in selling. We are going to sell you or share with you the capability to bring peace in the world to have that strength and get that with bigger systems. We're trying to export BrahMos, we're trying to export Akash, we're trying to export Pinaka, we're trying to export ships, offshore patrol vessels, interceptor boats, and mind you, there'll be a day when we'll also be exporting submarines from this country.
That's very good to know. I think very encouraging. I think, Mr. Jaju, there is this question that always comes up, that why should other countries look at Indian products or Indian exports, defense exports, when maybe better technology is available from the other countries, for competitors for India. But you partly answered that question, but I would like to understand from you that you mentioned it, in fact, in your first answer, that you are enabling foreign OEMs to have joint ventures in India for manufacturing. Is there a attempt also to encourage startups and innovators to start something and then give them incentives so that future technologies for warfare are also manufactured here with collaboration of foreign companies, Indian companies, and then get them to not just the Indian military but to also to the militaries which are from the friendly countries. So innovation and startups, I think there is a competition that you had organized. If you can just throw some light on that.
I think you, in your question in the end, when you started talking about the innovation economy, I think that is where I was trying to start from.
Yeah.
I think this whole concept that, India is a technologically backward country is actually, to be honest with you, it's a predated,
Outdated one. Yeah.
So, yes, there was a time when we were completely dependent on the rest of the world for technologies. I mean, we are aware of the fact that there were a lot of technologies which possibly originated from our country, but every country has a dark phase and a better phase, and so every country goes through those cycles, and we are aware that we also went through a cycle where the local technologies and the local culture got completely incapacitated, if that could be the right word.
Yeah.
We always use the word impoverished, but at least to an extent we're actually incapacitated to move ahead. But now things are changing. I mean, there are many technologies which are actually emanating from our country. Mm-hmm. I think look at the entire software world. Now, you might say that we still don't have the companies the likes of Google or Amazon or Facebook or Apple, but the fact is a lot of these companies actually have their technologies being done in our country, as was mentioned by, I think you mentioned that. A lot of these development centers are there. I used to be in Hyderabad earlier, and I am aware of the fact that most of the companies, whatever you see today, is actually originated from some Indian mind somewhere. Some Indian mind in Hyderabad or in Bangalore or in Gurgaon or in some Indian mind sitting out of Silicon Valley. So we are a technologically backward country is, to my mind, not a statement that suits our current age. Our people are enterprising. There's this entrepreneur sitting right there, Solar Industries. So his generation, he started it now. I think he's brought his grandson today here. And the point is, both have enterprise. Maybe he will bring in more technology into this entire effort. But the fact remains that in generations, this culture of entrepreneurship has been there in our country. And we're now slowly coming out of it. In fact, in terms of the innovation index also, if you look at it, there is a global innovation index.
That's right.
We have made a steady march in that. We are possibly the world's second biggest, if not the first, startup ecosystem now. There are startups emanating and originating from engineering colleges, small incubation cells. The list of unicorns that are there within our country, it's now almost endless.
That's right.
And a lot of these guys are doing a lot of innovative stuff. And even in defense technologies, there are a lot of technologies where Indian industry is now competing with rest of the world. Not that he was given a technology on the platter.
Right.
Not that L&T was given some technology on the platter. I'll again give you another example. About 10 years, 15 years back, the whole concept of dependence used to be to an extent where somebody would say, oh, you build an airport, You require some technology. You need to tie up with some
German firm or-
some German firm or some Singapore airport company. They do nothing, but you engage them so that you learn from it. I remember I used to be in highways earlier. Oh, you have to get a tunnel made, 12 kilometers tunnel. You don't have the technology. Oh, you have to make suspension bridges. You don't have the technology. I mean, that used to be a standard refrain.
That's right.
Ask L&T how many tunnels they have created, how many suspension bridges they have made. Yeah. So, it's not that our chaps cannot do it. Our chaps can do it. The only thing is we need to have confidence in our own capabilities and abilities. And I think that's where this whole paradigm of Atmanirbhar, it's not about being protectionist, as I keep telling. It's actually more to do with openness, because it's coming with Atmanirbhar is also the point that we want to make our industry become self-sufficient and become part of the global supply chains. What was mentioned by Mr. Gupta there was very relevant here. You first have to give confidence to the industry to compete. I'll tell you a small example. I mean, in our country, this whole problem of English and Hindi divide is fairly widespread in the Hindi heartland areas.
Right.
Anybody in the village who can't speak English, even though he might be having a much superior mind, considers himself as intellectually low. And his confidence is completely gone. Something similar was there in our industry. Now when you are talking to your contemporaries in rest of the world, your confidence is not there to talk to them. And then eventually you only live out of your confidence. I think what we have tried to do is, through these DEF Expos, and that's a point I mentioned, is give confidence to our industry to talk to rest of the world, and nobody is going to buy from you for any other reason except one, value for money.
Absolutely.
I mean, you might do whatever, you may use all the DAs there, the DAs might come and speak to us, we might speak to them, but their country will look at all the choices on the table and they will pick the choice which is the most economic choice or which is the most optimal choice, value for money. Value for money also means quality, value for money also means timely delivery, value for money also means after sales support, value for money means 100 things. But in defense there is one more angle here. Beyond value for money is, and that is what is I think very important, that is where I would like to impress upon all the DAs who are here, you also require a credible country. A country that does not stab you on your back. The country that does not give you products and then tomorrow after 5 years snatch an island and say that, look, you didn't repay our loans, so I'm going to take this island up. So you require that kind of a country which could be believed upon, and India has at least that distinction. Globally, we have never invaded anybody, and we are one of those credible nations on whose shoulders you can depend upon. Another aspect here is, defense is another sector where there may come a time where something is not going to be available at any price. I give you a platform today, 10 years down the line, I don't give you spares. I make your platform completely, what you call, incapacitate your platform. Because the geopolitics does not suit me, I am not going to give it to you. But with India, this is not going to happen. That is what I wanted to emphasize upon, because all the DAs are here. You can, and I am also sure, you can check from rest of the sources, the Indian industry, at least in terms of their business ethics, is very, very strong and very good. I think that is another culture that's very important when it comes to defense buys. You also need a company which is ethical in terms of its business, which lives up to your standards, which lives up to the promises that they make in their supply order or whatever that is. And that is why, and again in quality. There are a lot of countries which actually hoodwink you by price. I mean, and a lot of stuff is available all around. You just go to any of the markets, I'm not going to name that country, but there are a lot of stuff available outside, and you go there and you find out it's available at half the price, but it's also available at half the price 5 months later because it's going to fail by that time. So I think these are the factors which will drive Indian industry and India as a country to become a partner in all the countries that are represented today. I think to my mind.
Yeah, I think I think I want to open up to the audience in case there are any observations, comments or questions. And yeah, please add, yes.
I would just like to supplement what Mr. Jaju said by giving some figures. First and the foremost is the startup. He rightly mentioned India is number 2 in the globe today. United States of America had 33,000 startups last year. India had close to 9,000, second in the world. Coming to the point which was...
35,000 startups.
That's right. Yeah. So second part, which was very, very clearly mentioned, it was the technological Indian in 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000 helped build the technological companies all over the globe. That technological Indian is now looking inwards and is going to bring up the technologically efficient India. So I would tend to totally agree with what he said. We are no longer behind anyone. It may be that we have yet not converted them into the platforms of the future.
Right.
And we'll do that shortly.
I think that will happen. Mr. Gupta, your experience about what do people, sorry again, what do people expect when you go and explore other markets, other countries, smaller countries, bigger countries? What are their expectations? I know standards have to be high, price has to be competitive, but do they also look at India as a reliable partner, as was mentioned?
Certainly. The position of India in the global market is very, very, I would say, positive. I think, as sir mentioned, that we are not there to encroach anyone's rights for whatever reasons. And I think Indians have a very respect as far as business ethics are concerned. And that I see when I travel all over the world. I think we get a lot of respect, and many countries, they really rely on doing business with Indians. And I see this change in last 10 years coming more and more. So that's one thing. And I would say the perception is also very important, and that is also changing every day by day.
That's good to know. One final thought, are there any queries, any comments anyone wants to make? We'll just pass the mic around, otherwise I'll give the final word. Yes, please. Let me have that and then go to Mohan. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this. It's a wonderful session. What I wanted to mention is, in certain parts of the globe, our private companies are not able to go because there is a life-threatening security situation. What other nations are doing is, they are moving into the private security space. So could we as a government encourage not only defense industry, but defense, I would say private security firms to go hand in hand with the defense industry, go into those regions where they are not able to go. So the private security does the perimeter and the Indian industry does the core work. Thank you.
You want to answer that, Mohan?
No, my question is there any restriction? I mean, I don't see any restriction.
I don't think there's a restriction. Yeah, promotion maybe will be a thing, but yeah.
I can give you an example.
Yeah.
We went, I don't want to name the country. We went to one country where we were given a task. It was a very hostile environment out there. And my entire team, I sent a team of about 4 people to work in that country. My team were escorted by 8 people from their defense forces. So we got a contract, we put everything in the contract. They were given armed escorts, 24/7. My team was escorted everywhere, and they were not allowed to go anywhere other than that designated area. So countries, we can work that out. Countries is not a problem. Indians are willing to go anywhere in the world, okay?
I think they, as
up
they
to the moon also.
Up to the moon,
so
exactly.
There is no way there's nobody going to stop us, and we're going to be there.
Right.
Actually, they will end up seeing Indians only there again.
They will set up their business also there.
Especially a Malayali like me, in Kerala, you'll find making chai. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there is a question there, if you can pass the mic there, and then I think we'll close the session after answering that question.
Good morning, gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much, all the panelists, for enlightening us on the progress that our country has made. The friendly foreign country, DS, I just want to add value, sir, to our panelists, especially Nair sir brought out that our strength in the IT industry and those things. Sir, I have been in the procurement and advancement in the armed forces. And what I observed was that our startups, like Bhatia sir brought out, and our boys are very capable in terms of healthy mix and making compatibility of different equipments. This is a very, very important point. Like all countries buy equipment from various different sources, but they're not able to join them together. They're not able to utilize their optimality in terms of one system works standalone, other system works standalone, so you will end up in actually not getting the entire outcome of the in totality. And that is where our Indian industry is very good. And I can assure you that our boys can do this, and they have gone way ahead. And they can make the entire system work together as a single system for your country. That is where you must hit upon. And what Nayar said, I think is very right, sir.
I think the integration that you're talking about,
Absolutely.
he's an Air Force, former Air Force officer, so he knows how many different systems have been integrated into the Air Force in
Yes.
that sense.
So that's where-
yeah. So, unless there are other questions, I'm going to thank my panelists here. And of course, is there a question there? No. Okay. So let me thank all the panelists here. I think one thing is very clear, that Indian exports, which were not a topic of discussion, are now right up front there as far as the Indian Defence Ministry, defence sector is concerned. And I think our friends from friendly foreign countries would have also realized that the kind of inquiry that they must be getting, or they are sort of being faced with by a lot of Indian companies, would encourage a lot of collaboration. Our entire theme has been developing capability with cooperation and collaboration. And I think that's what the clear message that we are getting from this session. So I think I thank all of you here, and let Nilanjana do the rest of the session before we close it. Please give them a great round of applause here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nitin and the panelists, for this session. May I request Nitin to please present mementos to our panelists. Thank you so much.